My name is Paula and I'm from Horsham Congregation. I just wanted to share with you a testimony of God's goodness to my mum over this last couple of months. My mum's in her late 80s. She lives 4 hours drive away from us. She's a believer, but for the last few years she's had mild asthma. For that reason, she was needing to shield in the current time. But a week into April, she was walking in the grounds of her residential flats, and as she walked back to her flat, she had a blackout and had a really nasty fall onto the tarmac. She was whisked off to her nearest A&E, where they ascertained that she had fractured her collarbone, she chipped her hip bone, and she also had a really nasty hematoma on her head where she'd smacked the ground so hard. But those injuries were ones that could heal naturally over time. So she was sent after 3 days back to the community hospital that actually was near to her flat, and that was a real answer to prayer, because it meant that someone was able to go back to her flat and collect her some essential supplies. So she was there being looked after and cared for so that her body could heal in safety. But 12 days after her accident, she developed a fever. She also completely lost her appetite. So she was immediately quarantined. And at that point, I texted a few amazing people at church and asked them to pray and stand with us. The fever seesawed for several days. But after 6 days, they sent paramedics over to give her a test, and that actually came back 2 days later as positive. But God was very good on 2 counts. Firstly, I had been working from home since lockdown, so I was actually able to call her in an afternoon and to encourage her and to pray with her each day, which was amazing. And also, despite the doctor's fears that she would need oxygen or even to have to go back to the main hospital to go on a ventilator, she actually didn't have any breathing difficulties that were severe enough for that. They were easily managed by her inhalers that she actually already had. So, again, God was really good over her life and over her. And at the point that the positive test actually came through, she'd had it for 8 days and was actually turning a corner. So much so that I believe the next morning she actually had her appetite back and was able to eat breakfast. So God has been so good to us through that. He really has looked after her through that. And I just really wanted to encourage you that that we don't have to be having the worst case scenario over our lives, that if God is for us, who can be against us? And actually our portion is what he says about us and his goodness, his abundance of life over us. So just really wanted to share that with you. Be encouraged and be blessed.